Hello and welcome back to Oh and That's a Bad Miss. It's been a little while, I apologise, because it's not like I've missed a quiet couple of weeks in snooker. Everything seemed to happen. There's no real excuse other than my mental health took a bit of a nosedive, if I'm honest. But that's not what you're here for. I'll explain more about that in the end if anyone's worried about anything. That'll be at the end. But for now, let's get into it, because my God, I missed a couple of good weeks. And the reason I know that I've missed a couple of good weeks, apart from just watching it, is because of reddit.com/r/snooker, nearly hitting 10,000 subscribers. One of the matches from this week blew up because it was incredible. We'll get into that in a minute. But it had over nearly 400 comments in one of the threads, which is more than both of the World Championship semi-finals match threads combined last year. So there you go. That says a lot. That Reddit has exploded. Our Reddit, obviously, Reddit itself is growing, but our Reddit has grown a lot, and it's making me very happy. And it's a great place to talk about the podcast, talk about snooker, talk about everything. So head over there if you want to do all those things. You already know all this if you've listened before. Let's get on to what I've missed. Beginning with the shootout, which I went into my thoughts about last time. Not a fan as a ranking event. As a fun little piss around, brilliant, love it. But as a ranking event, definitely not a fan. But it does give a chance for two female players, Rhian Evans, who's an 11-time world champion, and Emma Parker, who's only 19 years old, to play on TV, which Rhian Evans has played before, but that's Emma Parker's first time playing on the telly. Unfortunately, they both lost in the first round, Rhian losing to Jimmy White and Emma losing to Laxman Rawat of India. Unfortunate, really. If either of them had a good little run, it could have advertised women's snooker quite a lot more, which it needs, although it is growing at the moment. A couple of weeks ago, we had the first officially recorded women's 147. Obviously, there's believed to have been ones in practice beforehand, but this is the first one officially reported in practice. So that's always good. Shows the women's game is increasing in quality, which is an issue that they've had in the past. Rhian Evans being able to dominate 11 times says a lot for the quality of the game. The final of the shootout was between Tepchar Unu and Michael Holt. Both were vying for their very first ranking event titles. And I think that says a lot about it, that last year's final was between Graham Dott and Michael Giorgio. Obviously, Michael Giorgio going on to win his first ranking event title. And this time it's two more first-time ranking event winners. I think it shows that if you're a player who falls apart in the longer matches, which is what happens in the later stages of tournaments, the snooker shootout can be for you. And is that unfair to be a ranking event? In my opinion, yes. Michael Holt has been playing professionally for 23 years, only missing one season as a professional, and he's never won a ranking event. If he'd won the shootout, is that really the one he wants to win? He didn't. Anyway, Tepchar ended up winning 74-0 in the frame, because obviously it's only a single frame match. I've been through Mathieulin's last week. I just really, really don't enjoy it. I enjoy it, but I got that niggling feeling in the back of my head thinking these people don't deserve ranking points for this. Well, they do. These people do deserve ranking points, but not for this. This isn't snooker. This is a different sport entirely, pretty much. After that, we went on to the Indian Open, which obviously is one of the first 3 tournaments they play in the year normally, but it was delayed due to the horrific flooding in Kerala, India. Very unfortunate, horrible, lost a life, and couldn't imagine the pain they're going through. But obviously World Snooker stepped in and said, obviously, let them deal with that. They can't play snooker during that. So it's been reorganised and happened in a couple of weeks ago. It's a weird one. It's like a lot of these foreign events. I'll get into the Gibraltar Open later. It's £50,000 to the winner, which is a healthy chunk of cash, but it's not huge when you look at how much money some of the players are earning over the years. So a lot of the lower players seem to do quite well in these because a lot of the top players do just skip it. John Higgins seemed to return to form in this tournament, making it all the way to the semi-finals, which is good to see because I think it would definitely be a loss for the game if he does retire after the World Championships, like he has previously said he would. And his season definitely hasn't been great. Sorry, I'm just getting a drink. Just finished refereeing a kids' football match, and a bit knackered. That was a fun one. But yeah, Indian Open, £50,000 to the winner, and it's fallen because of this isn't their fault, but it's fallen right in the busy period. We've got the Tour Championship just happening now. We had the Players Championship straight after the Indian Open. We've got the China Open coming up, and then we've got the World Championship after that. It's the pinnacle of the season, and a lot of players don't want to be flying all the way over to India to lose or to get it late, to get into the later rounds, then lose, then come back to the Players Championship, possibly hungover, jet lagged, and yeah, I can see and I totally understand why a lot of players are skipping it. Zhao Yulong made his first 147 break in his first round defeat. Unfortunately, he made a 147, went on to lose the match to Liu. I'm so bad with the Chinese names. Lu, I believe it's pronounced, Haoshan. And that is the 150th 147 ever made. Which I think it says a lot about the quality of the game, that there's now been 150 147s made in the men's game. And the 147th was only in the Champions League a couple of months ago, made by Dave Gilbert. And this was Zhao Yulong. Back 20, 30 years ago, it was only the supreme players that would make a 147 ever. So yeah, the quality of snooker's exploding, and you definitely can't argue that. As I said, it makes for a great chance for these lesser-ranked players to make an impact. And they did. Matthew Selt went on to knock out John Higgins in the semi-final, and then won against Liu Haoshan 5-3 in the final. And that's the second final in a row where neither player had previously won a ranking event. And it sort of backs up my point about it being a small event that a lot of players are skipping and maybe the quality isn't quite as good. I believe the Indian Open was only on Eurosport Player. It wasn't actually on Eurosport on the telly. So, iffy. But good, great news for Matthew Selt, his first ranking event after being a bit of a journeyman. And Liu Haoshan, the young player who made a hell of an impact at last year's World Championships, just missing out. But it's 5-3, so it's a best of 9. That's too short for a final, in my opinion. A best of 9. It's like the Tour Championship today. That's a best of 25. I think that's the first best of 25 in 30 years, I think. 20, 30 years. Just that specific number. But I love the longer matches. Love them. After that, we had the Players' Championship. And you hear Players' Championship 2019. One man comes to mind. Ronnie O'Sullivan. I know one man comes to mind when a lot of people talk about snooker at all, but the Players' Championships, that was Ronnie. That's all it was. Going into that final on 997 career centuries and making... Okay, so you're one frame away from winning. You're on 999 centuries. It's all set up perfectly. It's like the ending of a film, and he does it. And it's something I've never, ever witnessed in snooker. The atmosphere was spectacular. The crowd were cheering every shot up until the end. After the century had been made, every last shot, everyone was on their feet, cheering, spectacular. But not on the shots. It was so perfect. I could not have asked for a better way for the first player to reach 1,000 centuries. Absolutely incredible. And O'Sullivan is ridiculous at the moment. He, at that point, and keep in mind, at that point, had played in 9 ranking tournaments so far, 9 tournaments so far, reached 6 finals and won 4 of those. Those are incredible numbers, and it shows that picking and choosing is working for him. Whether it will work for other players or not, we'll see. And I think we'll see in the World Championships how well it works for Ronnie, because he is skipping the China Open. So if he can win or go far in the World Championships, I think it might put the likes of Mark Selby sort of to work and make him think maybe I shouldn't be playing in as many tournaments, maybe I should drop out of a few. Which may be an issue for the Indian Open, because they're already struggling with big names. Now, let's talk about that Australian accent. That was something from O'Sullivan. I'm not sure whether it was a good something or a bad... It was something. It was definitely something. He went, if you don't know, every media interview he did during the event, he did in an Australian accent. And not a good one. That was not a good Australian accent. He seems like that mate that you got. Okay, I think we all know him, down a pub, and they're a bit annoying, but they're your mate. So you stand by them and you have a laugh with them, but you can see how if you introduce them to someone, they're a bit of a pain in the arse. And that's what I imagine Ronnie is. Because apparently he was doing it behind the scenes. I was listening to Dave Hendon's Snooker podcast, which, by the way, please check out. Absolutely spectacular podcast. About the road to the Crucible. And he was talking about Ronnie and how he was heard in catering and all the behind the scenes players' rooms doing the Australian accent as well. The man's a lunatic. But he's one of the best snooker players who's ever lived. And that's, you guys, if you've listened before, you know I'm not O'Sullivan's biggest fan. But definitely, probably, I'd say second best player who's ever lived. I've been through this before. I think Hendry's the best because there just weren't as many ranking events back then. And as of right now, which is 20 past 4 on the day of the final of the Tours Championship, O'Sullivan is still one behind Stephen Hendry's 36 ranking event wins. I believe it is 36. So he's one behind. And now there's 19 or 20 ranking events a season compared to the 2 or 3 they were when Hendry was playing. It says a lot to me. But no doubt in the spectacularness of Ronnie O'Sullivan. It was during the Players' Championship, I believe, that Snooker 19, the upcoming video game for snooker, which, oh my god, I'm desperate for, because I used to play World Snooker 2003, was the first video game I ever really got into as a kid on my dad's computer. I was 5, which may make some of you feel a bit old, seeing I was born in 98. I was 5 playing that, and I used to play it for hours and hours on end, and I've been waiting for a new game, because I think the last one was 2011, 2009, somewhere around there. It's been a long time. And they released the Risa trailer. And it's looking like something. The table, the balls, the arenas, all of that, absolutely beautiful. Next gen graphic. Well, sorry, I keep saying next gen. It's PS4 level graphics. What you'd expect, but also very clean, lovely looking. The players, on the other hand, look fucking awful. I swear it looks like a PS2 game, the players. I'm sorry, but the animation is clunky and slow. I know they're a small development team, and they haven't got a AAA budget. But still, lads, come on. At least put some... I would understand if the likes of Lucas Kleckers or Sonny Akani or someone like that looked the way they did in the game. But Ronnie O'Sullivan looks horrific. They all look terrible. And they've been scanned. I don't know, I think they need to hire some more asset makers or something over there. It's not a good looking game because the players are obviously the majority of the screen. But, obviously, I'm willing to overlook that, and I'm going to play it, and I'm probably going to stream it for a bit, and see how that goes. I'm looking forward to playing it. Definitely, hugely looking forward to playing it. And I'll probably buy 2 copies, honestly, because I've got a PS4, and I've got my PC, so I think I'll end up buying 2 copies. So, and supporting this means that because it's planned to be a yearly game, like FIFA or PES or any of them sports games. So, supporting this one would be huge. So I'm going to probably buy 2 copies. And it looks pretty cheap, I think. It's like 30 quid. So can't complain. More bad news, not to pile on, is there's no creator player. I was playing World Snooker 2003 a couple of months ago on my PS2 before I moved out of home. You could create a player there. It's been 16 years, lads. Come on. You just need to... It doesn't need to be detailed. Just throw in a couple of random faces, a couple of waistcoats, a couple of jackets. Let's create a player. Come on, please. But you can't. So you can only do a career, but to be fair, you can do a career as any of the 149 professional players, I believe it is. So you could take Lucas Kleckers to win the World Championships, you could take Sonny Akani, you can do all of this from lower levels all the way to the top in a career mode, which is nice. Online play has been confirmed, which a lot of people want. It's a shame I have no friends into snooker. But I think when it launches, probably be a thread on Reddit, people exchanging gamer tags and PSN tags and Steam accounts and everything, just to have a friendly game. So head over there if you want that. And that, they say they've given a release date. They've given a release period, spring 2019. And obviously, traditionally, spring ends in May. So it's the end of March, 24th of March today. Not long to go, and very excited by that. I am starting to feel that just looking at it, I think they may have been rushed to develop it into a yearly thing, and that's why there's no creator player. That's why it looks a bit janky. So hopefully next year's game, because now they've got the base to build off, next year's game will be a lot better, hopefully. But support it while you can. I do urge you to. After that, we had the Gibraltar Open, which is another one of these international small events, even smaller than the Indian Open, with only £25,000 going to the winner. And that feels weird, saying only £25,000. That's like my yearly wage. So I can't really... I should become a professional snooker player. That's what I've decided, if they're making that much money, and a lot of them can't be asked to go over there to try and play for that money. Ryan Day, who was the defending champion, was defeated by Stuart Bingham in the final 4-1. So that was a best of 7, even smaller for a final. Just not my thing, I'm afraid. I understand that obviously tournament sponsors aren't going to be as big because, again, this was only on Eurosport Player and it's in Gibraltar. So I don't think snooker's as popular there as it is in England, but it is a shame. But they are a necessity because they allow the sport to grow and increase in popularity worldwide, which is what we need. And that is what a lot of people think Barry Hearn did to save snooker, was to introduce it worldwide, in China especially. So as of this week, we've had the Tour Championship, and that is the first time the Tour Championship has been staged. Excuse me. And it's the top 8 players from the 1-year ranking list. So instead of the traditional 2-year ranking list, it's just who's won the most money this year. And long matches. It's a best of 25 frame final, as I mentioned earlier, and it's spectacular. This tournament has been incredible, and as soon as you hear this, the Tour Championship of 2019, again, you're going to be thinking of O'Sullivan, but you're going to be thinking of Trump v O'Sullivan. If you didn't watch that match, I'm going to go into spoilers, so watch it. Please watch it. It was spectacular. You've got... I'll go into it now. But if you haven't seen it, pause this, listen to the rest later, go on YouTube, find it, please. Just the evening session if you have to. Absolutely spectacular. Trump led 6-2 after that first session, and everyone's thinking, oof, O'Sullivan is going to struggle here. And I believe Coral had him at way underdog. I think it was 9-1 odds, I think, after the first session on him coming back and winning. O'Sullivan brought it back to from 8-5 at one point to 9 apiece. So they went to a deciding frame, and God, the tension in that match was incredible the whole way. And this deciding frame is the pinnacle of snooker. Possibly the best I've ever seen. And it was quite to and from. They had a few sort of bitty breaks, and it got to the point where Trump had a green along the top cushion, and he just had to play it to drop it in to leave O'Sullivan needing snookers. O'Sullivan obviously would continue, but you only need to play it gently, drop it in, because as you know from a cushion shot, it's difficult to get position on your next colour, and especially in the position Trump was in. If you watch the match, you'll know what I mean. But Trump, after all... I think it was just the last episode or the one before that, I was talking about how great he's been and how he's recovered his game and how he's turned around and said, no more silly mistakes, I'm going to play properly, logically. And he fell back into his old ways. It was like the culmination of a TV show or something, or a film. And he fell back into his old ways at the end. Hit it too hard. He played to get position on the brown from the green. Smashed it out of the pocket. O'Sullivan ends up getting an unbelievable fluke where he misses the ball in the top corner. It rattles in the jaw, flies around the table, straight at rocket speed into the middle pocket, and he clears up and wins from 6-2 down and 8-5 down to 10-9 winner. Absolutely spectacular. And I think it finished at around 11:30 that match. I had work the next day at 5:30. I implore you to go and find that match. there's no way of arguing that wasn't the best match this season. Maybe the last 5 years, if it wasn't for the World Championship final last year. And obviously that set up a final with Neil Robertson today, and as I speak, it's 8-all going into the final session, which I was not expecting, because O'Sullivan seemed to be stretching his lead and going ahead when I left, and then I come back from refereeing, got a message from a mate saying it's 8-all, and I was like, oh my god, I was not expecting that. So tonight, we are in for a good, wow, I think good is underplaying it, an incredible match. And it could be a long one as well, because it's a first to 25, so don't blame me, first race to 13 frames. So we've got a long way in it yet. It could be another close one. And the biggest thing is, if O'Sullivan wins the final, he goes to world number 1. Knocking Mark Selby off, who's been there for 4 years now, I believe, winning the world when he won the World Championship for the second time. He went to world number 1 and he hasn't dropped it since. Spectacular. And looking forward, we have the China Open, where it's become the biggest event outside of the Worlds because of the £225,000 prize going to the winner. It's the Chinese equivalent of the World Championships. Don't expect World Championship style crowds. Expect 3 men and a dog in the crowd, but it will be incredible. And it's a huge opportunity for a lot of players to skip up into the top 16, which obviously in the World Championships is huge, because the top 16 won't play each other until the last 16, because you get matched up against one of the qualifiers in the first round. Speaking of which, if the seeds stay as they are right now, which is unlikely due to O'Sullivan possibly winning tonight and becoming... O'Sullivan would still be number 2, because the first ranked seed is always the defending champion. But for other reasons, there is quite a lot of give and take from what could happen. But if the seeds stay as they are, and every seeded player wins their first round match, which not very likely either, but if it was to happen, this is the lineup for the World Championship last 16. It would be Mark Williams versus David Gilbert, Kyron Wilson versus Barry Hawkins, Mark Allen versus Stuart Bingham, John Higgins versus Stephen Maguire, Mark Selby versus Luca Brissell, which is just what Selby needs, is a sort of bloke who's struggling a little bit to boost up his confidence, because Selby struggles in the earlier rounds of the Worlds and excels in the later rounds. Judd Trump versus Sean Murphy, Neil Robertson versus Ding Junhui, and Ronnie O'Sullivan versus Jack Lisowski, which there's some really good matches in there, especially Neil versus Ding and O'Sullivan versus Lisowski. So this World Championships could be lining up to be an absolute corker. And whoever gets to the final, we have discovered that it will be officiated by Leo Scullion. I'm absolutely chuffed for the bloke. He's an older fella, and he had to leave refereeing for a little while in 2014 because he was diagnosed with lung cancer. Had to go through 2 cycles of chemotherapy, and it's been in remission for 5 years, I believe. 4 years. And in October, I believe, is his final checkup, and as long as they don't find anything, he'll not be going back for his monthly visits. So all the power to the bloke. He's a great referee as well, just in snooker, and a good all-round guy from what I've heard. Very much excited to see him referee the World Championships final. So that brings us to the end of the season. Wow, it's getting close, isn't it? I'm going to struggle to fill the space for half an hour when we come back, when we finish the World Championships. Probably have to do some top 10 lists or something. If you guys have anything in particular you'd want to hear during the off-season, feel free to leave a comment in either the description of your video, tweet me, and that's a bad one, link in the description, or head to reddit.com/r/snooker, leave me a comment in the thread. Had some lovely messages from you guys while I was gone. And yeah, I guess as I'm summing up, as I'm ending the podcast, I might as well go into why I've been away. It's mental health, like I said. I've been struggling with it, and sort of, it's a difficult one to describe, but if you guys have ever struggled with your mental health, you know you get into this sort of spiral of not wanting to do anything, being very lethargic. It's been a tough few weeks for me personally, and having the messages that I received off you guys did mean a hell of a lot during my sort of darker moments. And thank you for listening, honestly. And if you are struggling as well, it gets better and get some help. That's something that took me a long time to come to terms with, but get some help. It's for the best. Whether that's professional or through friends, or you can send me a message anytime. It's important to look after your mental health as much as your physical health, and the progression we've had recently in people talking about it, about not manning up, about not being afraid to talk about these things, has done wonders for us. So, yeah, enough about the depressing stuff. I've enjoyed looking back through this and writing the scripts up and everything and coming back, and I'm excited to publish this and get chatting with you guys about snooker again, and then get into a very, very fun couple of weeks with the China Open, World Championships, and of course the World Championship qualifiers, which I didn't mention, but they are incredibly fun as well. I've been Charlie. This has been That's a Bad Miss. If you've enjoyed, leave a like, comment, review, all of that good stuff. And I'll see you next week. I promise.